What if I told you that more than 2,200 years ago, a regular traveling merchant, not a noble, not a general, not a born statesman, made the single boldest investment in human history? An investment that didn't buy gold, land, or rare jewels, but an entire empire. A man who looked at a penniless, abandoned royal hostage, stuck in an enemy state, and saw not a failure, but the most valuable product in the whole world. Today, we re-diving deep into the life of LV Buwei, the legendary merchant who climbed from the marketplace to the pinnacle of power in the Qin dynasty, a story filled with cold calculation, high stakes, diplomacy, silent betrayals, and a tragic fall that still echoes in Chinese history. This isn't some cheap drama or fake folktale. Every single detail you about to hear is rooted in strict historical records, primarily Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian, the most authoritative source for ancient Chinese history. No made-up dialogues, no exaggerated numbers, no wild conspiracy theories that pass as secret history. Just pure, unfiltered truth about one of the most fascinating figures who ever lived. First, let us set the stage. We in the Warring States period, a time of endless chaos, brutal wars, and shifting alliances across what we now call China. 7 major states fought non-stop for supremacy, and Qin was slowly emerging as the strongest, fueled by strict legalist reforms and a powerful military. But power inside the Qin royal court was tangled, messy, and full of hidden opportunities for someone smart enough to spot them. LV Buwei was born in Puyang, the state of Wei, and he made his fortune the old-fashioned way, buying low and selling high, traveling from city to city, trading goods and building a massive personal fortune. He wasn't just any merchant, he was sharp, observant, and had a mind for risk that no one else could match. He understood value better than anyone, not just the value of silk, jade, or grain, but the value of people, connections, and future potential. Most merchants of his time dreamed of retiring, wealthy living, a quiet life, and leaving their kids a comfortable inheritance. But LV Buwei was different. He hungered for something far greater, legacy power, and a place in history that no amount of money could buy. His life changed forever, in Handan, the capital of the state of Zhao. There, he met a young man named Yiren, also later known as Zichu. Yiren was a grandson of King Zhaoxiang of Qin, the son of Lord Anguo, who was then the crown prince of Qin. But Yiren's life was a nightmare. His mother, Lady Xia, was ignored by Lord Anguo, and Yiren had been sent to Zhao as a royal hostage, a common practice back then, to keep peace between states. But Qin kept attacking Zhao anyway, so Zhao treated Yiren like a prisoner, not a prince. He had no money, no fine carriages, no loyal followers, and lived in a shabby house, constantly afraid for his life. Every noble in Zhao looked down on him. Every official in Qin had forgotten him. To everyone else, Yiren was a lost cause, a useless pawn discarded by his own family. But when LV Buwei saw him, he froze. He whispered to himself 4 words that would change history. This is a rare commodity worth hoarding. That's the origin of the famous Chinese idiom, qi huo qi ju, and it wasn't just a casual thought. It was a calculated, life-altering decision. LV Buwei went straight home and had a conversation with his father that reveals his entire mindset. Let me recreate this exchange exactly as recorded in historical texts, word for word, because it tells you everything about his ambition. LV Buwei asked father, "How much profit do you get from farming?" His father answered, 10 times the investment. Then he asked, "How much profit from trading pearls and jade?" Father said 100 times. Then LV Buwei leaned in and asked the question that no merchant had ever dared to ask. "And what if we establish a ruler and secure an entire state?" "How much profit then?" His father stared at him and said, "Infinite." Beyond all measure, at that moment, LV Buwei knew his path. He wasn't going to trade goods anymore. He was going to trade a throne. He wasn't just chasing wealth, he was chasing immortality. The next day, LV Buwei went to Yiren's shabby home. Yiren was shocked. He had no visitors, no one who cared about him. When LV Buwei walked in, he said, directly, "I can make your family great." Yiren laughed bitterly and said, "You should make your own family great first, before you try to make mine great." LV Buwei looked him in the eye and said, "You don't understand. My family's greatness depends on yours first." That line cut through Yiren's despair. He realized this merchant wasn't joking. He was offering a way out of hell. They sat down alone, and LV Buwei laid out the cold hard truth of Yiren's situation. King Zhaoxiang is old. Lord Anguo will be king soon. Lady Huang, Lord Anguo's favorite wife, is the most powerful woman in the Qin court, but she has no sons. Only, she can choose the next crown prince. You have more than 20 brothers, and you re-stuck here in Zhao, forgotten. When Lord Anguo becomes king, you will never be chosen as heir. Yiren's voice shook as he asked, what can I do? I'm poor, trapped, and powerless. Lil Vui's answer was simple and deadly effective. I will use my wealth to make you the heir of Qin. LV Bui gave Yiren 500 pieces of gold, immediately half his own savings, to buy fine clothes, host feasts, make friends with nobles and envoys, and build a reputation as a wise, generous prince. No one had ever given Yiren money before. Overnight, he went from a beggar-like hostage to a respected figure in Handan. Then, LV Bui took another 500 pieces of gold to buy rare treasures and luxurious gifts, and he traveled to Qin, the heart of power. His target was Lady Huang, but he didn't go to her directly. He was too smart for that. He first befriended Lady Huang, brother and sister, wealthy and influential figures in Qin, and gave them magnificent gifts. They were delighted and agreed to speak for him. When he finally met Lady Huang through her family, he didn't beg or flatter blindly. He used logic that she could not ignore. He said, you are loved now for your beauty, but beauty fades. When you grow old and lose the king's favor, you will have no one to protect you. You have no sons. If you adopt Yiren as your own, and make him the crown prince, he will be grateful to you forever. When he becomes king, you will remain the most powerful woman in Qin, safe and respected for life. It was the perfect argument. Lady Huang knew he was right. She cried, and agreed to help. She spoke to Lord Anguo every day, praising Yiren's wisdom and kindness, until Lord Anguo carved a jade tablet, promising to make Yiren his heir. LV Bui had already won half the battle, with nothing but money, strategy, and psychological insight. But danger struck soon after. In 257 BCE, Qin's army besieged Handan. Zhao was furious and planned to kill Yiren to punish Qin. LV Bui acted fast. He bribed the city guards with 600 pieces of gold, an enormous sum to smuggle Yiren out of the city. Yiren escaped to the Qin army and returned home safely. Zhao tried to kill Yiren's wife and their newborn son, but his wife was from a wealthy Zhao family and hid successfully. That boy was Yingzheng, the future first emperor of China. LV Bui had saved not just Yiren, but the man who would unite all of China. Years passed, King Zhaxiang died, and Lord Anguo became King Xiaowen of Qin. He honored Lady Huang as queen, and made Yiren the crown prince. Zhao, fearing Qin's power, sent Yiren's wife and son Yingzheng back to Qin. Then, the unthinkable happened. King Xiaowen ruled for only 3 days before he died. It was shocking, but it accelerated LV Bui's plan. Yiren ascended the throne as King Zhuangxiang of Qin. And he kept his promise. He appointed LV Bui as his chancellor, the highest official in Qin, and enfeoffed him as Lord Wenxing, with 100,000 households in Luoyang as his fief. Overnight, LV Bui went from a traveling merchant to the second most powerful man in the most powerful state in China. His investment had paid off beyond his wildest dreams. But the story didn't end there. King Zhuangxiang ruled for just 3 years and died, leaving a 13-year-old son, Yingzheng, as the new king. Yingzheng was too young to rule, so LV Bui became regent, and the young king called him Zhuangfu, meaning second father. For nearly a decade, LV Bui was the de facto ruler of Qin. He controlled the military, the government, the economy, and foreign policy. He expanded Qin's territory, defeated rival states, and even conquered the last remnants of the Zhou dynasty, ending 800 years of Zhou rule. He was a brilliant administrator. He recruited thousands of scholars, thinkers, and talents to his court. More than 3,000 guests lived under his roof, because he believed Qin needed more than just military strength to rule a unified China. He hated that Qin was seen as a barbaric legalist state with no culture. So he ordered his guests to write down their knowledge, their ideas, their philosophies, and compile them all into one massive book, Lil V Xunqiu, or the Annals of Lil Bui. This book blended Confucianism, Taoism, legalism, Mohism, and yin-yang. Thought it was the first comprehensive encyclopedia of Chinese thought, meant to be the guide for ruling a unified empire. LV Bui even hung the book at the gate of Xianyang's market, and offered 1,000 pieces of gold to anyone who could add or change even one word. No one dared. It was a display of his intellectual and political power. But every rise has a fall. LV Bui made 2 fatal mistakes that destroyed everything he built. First, he had a secret relationship with Yingzheng's mother, the Queen Dowager. As Yingzheng grew older, LV Bui feared the affair would be exposed and ruin him. So he found a strong man named Lao Ai, pretended to castrate him, and sent him to the Queen Dowager as a servant. The two had 2 secret sons, and Lao Ai grew arrogant, plotting to make his own son king. When Yingzheng discovered the plot, he crushed the rebellion, brutally executing Lao Ai and his sons, and exiling the Queen Dowager. The scandal directly implicated LV Buwei. Everyone in the court knew he had introduced Lao Ai to the palace. Yingzheng was now a young, strong, ruthless ruler who wanted full control of his empire. He couldn't tolerate a regent who had ruled for 10 years, who was loved by the people, admired by scholars, and connected to every powerful family. In 237 BCE, Yingzheng stripped LV Buwei of his title as Chancellor, and sent him away from Xiangyang to his fief in Luoyang. But even in exile, LV Buwei was too powerful. Envoys from all 6 rival states came to visit him every day, begging him to become their chancellor. News of this reached Yingzheng, and he was terrified. He sent a letter to LV Buwei that was cold, cruel, and final. The letter said, "What merit have you to Qin, that you should hold Luoyang with 100,000 households? What kinship are you to Qin, that you should be called second father? Take your family and move to Shu, the remote southern land." LV Buwei read the letter and understood. Yingzheng would never let him live. If he went to Shu, he would be killed later, and his whole family would be destroyed. To protect his family and keep his dignity, LV Buwei drank poisoned wine and took his own life in 235 BCE. The man who bought a dynasty, who built an empire's foundation, who changed Chinese history forever, died alone in exile, a tragic end to a legendary life. Now, let us step back and understand LV Buwei's real legacy beyond the drama and the scandal. He was not just a greedy merchant or a power-hungry politician. He was a visionary. He saw that Qin could unify China long before anyone else. He stabilized Qin's government, expanded its territory, built its cultural prestige, and laid the political and intellectual groundwork for Yingzheng to become the first emperor of China. Without LV Buwei, there might have been no Qin unification, no Great Wall's early stages, no unified writing system, no unified laws. His Lvhe Chunqiu remains one of the most important books in Chinese philosophy, a bridge between the warring states, thinkers, and the unified empire. He proved that a man's birth didn't define his fate, that intelligence, courage, and calculated risk could lift someone from the marketplace to the throne. He also taught a brutal lesson in a system where absolute power belongs to the emperor. No minister, no matter how loyal or talented, can outshine the ruler forever. LV Buwei's story is more than a biography. It is a mirror for human ambition, for the cost of power, for the thin line between genius and self-destruction. He gambled everything, won everything, and lost everything, but he left a mark on history that will never be erased. He was the merchant who bought a dynasty, the strategist who shaped an empire, and the man whose life still fascinates us more than 2 millennia later. If you enjoyed this journey into ancient China, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more epic history. See you next time.